winter silence is so long. Sadly short is summer song. Fresh cut grass under our feet. This is where our friends meet.
I'm reinventing myself. I'm me and nobody else.
Ooh, I can't help but smile.
Hey there everybody, just Marco here with another one for you. I hope you're all well. I'm certainly doing well here. Gonna have to apologize right off the bat that these videos have been few and far between. A lot of that has been, well, summer has taken over. It's a little bit nicer out there. We just came off of a long weekend here in Canada, Canada Day weekend. So well rested and ready to do a video for you here, and a tutorial video. So I will not name names, but there are YouTubers out there with tens of thousands of subscribers, and they have no idea how to use the pen tool. It's gonna be a bit of a focus of this one because I wanna show you how to accurately close cut, crop, or mask things. I've worked with professionals who don't know how to use the pen tool and avoid the pen tool because they just haven't taken the time to learn it. It does not take that much work. It is actually quite simple, and once you get the hang of it, you can be very quick with it. Knowing the pen tool can come in very handy, and I'm gonna show you how to use the pen tool in DaVinci Resolve. It will be the same in those other software packages, so fear not, this is a transferable skill. Anyway, let's get to it. So Decoy Bar is a bar that's 2 minutes from my front door, run by a bunch of great guys, and if you didn't guess, they've opened a new patio up, and it's ready this summer. So I thought I'd help them out a little bit with this. So to begin, we're gonna bring in a stock video clip, and don't be confused because I'll be bringing this in from another window. I'm working with 2 monitors to give myself more real estate, and also to make things a little bit cleaner and less confusing for you as well watching. So I'm gonna bring this glass in. The glass in the Decoy logo, it's intended that it be a beer glass. They specialize in beers, although you can order cocktails and wine at Decoy as well, but the glass in the logo is a beer glass. So we're going to start with this glass here. I'm going to isolate this in the color tab. Now you can do this in the Fusion tab as well, which in many cases can make more sense. By default, it gives you a input node. Going to right click on that and add a new node. Right click on that, add another node. I will typically leave the first node completely clean, although some people will start putting adjustments on that node immediately, but I like to keep that one clean. The second node I'll often reserve for sharpening and things like that. The reason I put it on its own node is that if I decide not to sharpen something, I can just grab the whole node, delete it, and not delete something else as well. In this one, I don't want to do any sharpening. This image is fine. If anything, we want to add some blur to this, but I'm going to just keep this as an adjustment node, and this node at the end here is going to be the one reserved for our masking. So I'm going to have to go into our mask tools, and you'll find them down here. Now we've got the masking tool selected here, or the window tool. If one of these other ones is selected, just make sure you've got this one selected here. And I'm going to come down to the pen tool right here. And you get the little pen cursor. I'm going to expand this by clicking on this little button here. And I'm zooming in by scrolling the scroll wheel, and if you hold down the scroll wheel and move around, it allows you to pan. A lot of people on YouTube will tell you to just go like this. Well, that is not how you use the pen tool. So the power of the pen tool is the ability to make smooth and accurate selections, and you're not going to make a smooth and accurate selection by just creating a bunch of points like this. So I'm going to add our first point here. I'm going to click and drag. It'll become evident where to put this next point over time using the pen tool. You'll see we've got these handles here. They're called Bezier handles, and you can control the curve of this line using those handles by just click dragging it. I can click where I want the next point. You'll see we get this overshoot, and that's because we want to tuck our Bezier in like that, and then we can continue here. I'm going to just, again, holding down the middle mouse button or the scroll wheel, And this is the power of the pen tool. This is what gives you your beautiful smooth curves when using the pen tool. And it also reduces the number of points that you use, which makes for a much cleaner cut. When you're tracking something, so when you've got something you're isolating and the camera is moving, in some cases you're going to want to make more points than is required. So you'll have to control over moving these edges as your subject moves in frame, but we've got a subject that is stationary in this case, so we're only using the minimum points required. So I actually want this piece of concrete in the selection, so I'm going to have to change the direction of this Bezier handle. I'm going to do that by holding the control key, and then I'm going to click drag again, add another point here. I'm actually move that in a little, like so. Gives me a little bit of a curve in there, and then another one there. Then I'm going to want to use the middle mouse button, scroll over here, grab that, and now see how things kind of get blurry as they go back? That's because this was shot with a very shallow depth of field, so a very large aperture on the lens. So I want to actually put that on a different layer, so I've got control over this blur. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just give it a little bit of this sharp area, like so, and continue our cut like this. Scroll down again. So once you get used to this, see, there's nothing to be scared of. Just click and drag. All right. I think what people worry about is being able to change direction of the points, and yeah, just make sure that you know your hotkeys. Now they're a little bit different on a Mac. I'm working with a PC right now, but easy to figure out what those are. And I'm going to zoom in here to this edge because I want this lip. Put a point here. I'm going to click drag to get this curve right there. And then our last one here, you can click drag here too, which gives you this curve that we were missing because that was our starting point. And then I can make any adjustments I need to. You can always go back over all these and change your curves if they're not quite 100%. So I'm going to back that up a little bit. And so you can see we've still got our background. What's going on? How do you actually knock this out? And the way that we do that is we're going to have to go back to our nodes over here. And you'll see here in our node that it is actually cut out, but we're not seeing it in our preview window. You're going to want to right click in this area, add alpha output. That gives us this little blue thing. The blue is always our alpha. And we're going to want to drag that over. So I'm just click dragging over to this. So then when we go to the edit page, you'll see that's actually been knocked out. Now to add another video layer in the edit window, I'm going to just right click over here into this area, add track. It adds another video track here. I'm going to drag this up like so. Let's get this right to the beginning of the timeline. And then I'm going to drag another clip underneath that from our media pool. It's going to be this one. This has got audio on it, so I'm going to unlink that and delete the audio. We don't need the audio that's with that video, like so. And there you go. So that's not quite what we want, right? So I'm going to just grab that background clip and I'm going to zoom in on it, and I'm going to move it over. So what we want to do is add another video track. I'm just going to go over here, right click, add track. Going to select this one. I want to duplicate it and hold the Alt key and just drag up. And then on this top layer, I'm going to go back into the color tab, get rid of this node here, add a new one. Now this is where we're going to add in this little piece that blurs out. I'm going to just repeat the process here, but just for this area. Back to our pen tool, grab this guy here, and then reconnect our alpha I'll go back to our edit window. Obviously, we're gonna have to soften this up, and this edge around the glass even is just way too hard. So we have control over those things. We can just go back to our color, make sure that the mask is selected, and over here we've got the softness control, and we can control the inside or outside. Just going to add a general softening to that. 2 should do it. That is probably too much. 1.25. All right, cool. Go back to the edit window, take a look at that. Okay. So, and then on the glass itself, so to get this track on top out of the way, I can just click on this, disables the track on top. Then when I go back into the color window, we don't have to look at it. Make sure that the mask is selected, and we're gonna add some softening to that too. I'm just clicking on this node before it, so we're not seeing the outline. Makes it a little bit easier to see us softening this edge. You'll see that the way it softens, you're getting this halo, and that's because the softening is applying itself evenly to the outside and inside of our edge. I want it to actually just apply it to the inside actually, so we're not getting any of the background that we cut out. I'm gonna go back to this, and I'm actually going to increase the inside, drop this back to 0, and then I'm going to take a look at that again. Much more natural. There we go. And I'll just turn that other layer back on. Now we're just going to position this background exactly where we want it. We're going to want to scale this pool edge and this glass down simultaneously. To do that, all we have to do is hold shift and select both layers at the same time here in the timeline, and then use our zoom tool again, and that'll allow us to just scale the whole thing down in one shot. And our position tools here on the right hand side too, just to get it where we need it. Now of course we're going to want to now make that background out of focus as well, which is pretty easy. Just going to select the background video there. I'm actually going to disable these 2 video tracks, so then when I go into the color page, I'm not going to have any issue. Just gonna back that up a little bit, add those nodes I usually do. So in here I've got a few options as to what blur I want to use. I'm going to use the lens blur for realism. Drag that over, not far off actually, maybe 3.5, maybe 3.5. There we go. That's in the blur size. So right, remember earlier how I had mentioned that it's not always the way to go using the color tab when you're creating these composites. Sometimes it's better using the fusion tab. Well, let me illustrate what I was talking about. Now, everything is fine when you're creating alphas to mask things out using tools like the pen tool within DaVinci Resolve, but when you're bringing elements in that already have an existing alpha, like a transparent PNG, for instance, or even a PNG sequence, for instance, like I will be with this duck, and also some effects I'm putting on the water. I rendered those in Blender, created a PNG sequence out of those, and now I'm bringing those in. But those kind of elements have an issue if you're going to do things like apply a blur to them in the color tab. Let me show you what I mean. So right here, I'm going to add a track. I'm going to actually turn these off, drag the duck in. Now, if we want to blur this, and I go into the color tab, and for demonstration purposes, just add 1 serial node and bring that lens blur in. Herein lies the problem. It's only blurring within where that alpha is, but let's undo that. And this time I'm going to make it a fusion clip. So when I've got that track selected, if I go to fusion, now don't be scared of fusion. Media in is our duck, and media out is our result after we add our operations in here between these two. Click on this line, you'll see the line turn blue. Right click on that line, add tool, blur. Defocus will give us the most realistic. You'll see right there, it's adding our blur without any issues. And I'll just increase that defocus to say 5. I also want to add in the water element that I was talking about. So I'm going to add another track in here. Now the water is just to add a shimmer as well as a little bit of a reflection, although I'm going to boost that reflection within Resolve. I'm going to actually add a blur to the water here as well. I'm actually going to do that in Fusion too. Click on the line, add tool, defocus. In the Fusion tab, I'm actually going to add a mask here by making sure media in is selected and then clicking on the polygon tool here. And that actually gives us a mask. You can't see it here now, but if I start adding points in here, there we go. And we've got the same tools here to soften the edge. So just like Photoshop, in Resolve you can actually change the blend mode when you're adding layers on one another. So I'm going to actually change this blend mode here to overlay, and that gives me the effect that I want. So the last part of this is actually duplicating the duck and flipping it over. So I've got some kind of a reflection in the water. There is a bit of a reflection that I've got from my CG water here, but I want something a bit stronger. I really want the color to show up here in the water. Add another layer or a track, and I'm going to grab the duck. I'm going to Alt drag, and then I'm going to flip that. Make sure the clip is selected. Go over here to your video controls, and beside flip, there you go. It's now upside down. Now all I have to do is position it where I want it. I want to scale that, but not uniformly, so I'm going to turn this lock off in between here. I'm actually going to add another effect to this, and I'm going to do that in the Fusion tab again. So there's an effect in here called waviness, and I'm going to play around with these a little bit to get what I want. And you can actually animate this over time if you like. So I'm going to change the opacity of this as well, so a little bit more natural. All there is left to do is add the copy and the logo in. As usual, I hope you all got something out of this one. If so, consider leaving me a thumbs up. If not, that's okay too. If you want to make sure you don't miss any of these in the future, please consider subscribing. If you've got any ideas for future episodes, please leave those in the comments below. And until next time, keep working to make your chosen idea a reality. Peace.